Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Catherine, and on this channel you'll find videos all about blindness, disabilities, and hobbies and fun things that I like to do in spite of that, because they're things that I don't really hear a lot of people talking about doing with blindness in particular. And I know that sometimes I feel very alone, and thought that I would like to help others who might be in a similar situation not feel so alone, and maybe get some ideas of how to get around some of the more annoying obstacles that come up when you are blind or visually impaired and trying to draw or paint or do a martial art or sew or any of those kinds of things that a lot of times people just don't think about. If you've been around for a little while, and especially if you've been around for about the last month or so, you will know that September of 2021 is Guide Dog Month over here on my channel. And we are just about to the end. This is the last video to come out in September. And so this is the last video in my series on guide dogs. I certainly might do more videos at another time about guide dogs, but this is the last in this particular series. And it is also the last week of the Guiding Eyes for the Blind wag-a-thon, which is a month-long marathon where humans and their furry companions, if they have them, walk the equivalent of a marathon to raise money for Guiding Eyes for the Blind. If you are interested in donating to Guiding Eyes, please feel free to visit my wag-a-thon page. It is linked in the description down below. If this fundraiser is over at the time that you are watching this, that link will have been changed to simply go to the Guiding Eyes for the Blind website, where if you feel so moved, you can still absolutely donate, or you can also learn more about guide dogs in general. So today I am talking about 3 pretty significant misconceptions about guide dogs. Some of these are things that I thought myself before I started working with a guide dog, and some of these things are things that I hear other people mention a lot, like a whole lot, or questions that I've had directed specifically at me regarding my own guide dog and how he works or does different things. So let's get into the 3 biggest misconceptions that I hear about as a guide dog user. Misconception number 1 is that guide dogs know when it's safe to cross the street. This is absolutely not true. If anything, it's the opposite. Guide dogs know when it's not safe to cross the street. So if you think about it, guide dogs, or any dog really, they can't read, right? So even if there's a walk sign or some other sort of indication that it may or may not be safe to cross the street, a dog isn't going to be able to read those signs. Dogs aren't going to know what the little white picture of the person walking across the road is for a crosswalk sign means. They're also not going to know what that red hand means. They don't know these things. It's also incredibly difficult to get any dog to look up higher than what might immediately impact the dog. So it's kind of, it's not unusual for a guide dog to have trouble, even in terms of like if there's a low-hanging branch that is plenty high enough for the dog to get under easily, but a little too far down for the human who's working with the dog to get under easily. It's until that dog is familiar with the fact that that obstacle is there, it's very common for them to miss it, or for them to misjudge, because as a dog, they're fairly short. Even tall dogs compared to humans are fairly short, and so it's very easy for them to just not realize that they need to pay attention to that. So getting a dog to look up where a traffic light or a crosswalk signal might be is incredibly difficult, if not outright impossible, let alone having them have the level of focus and I guess cognition necessary to process what that sign means. It's just not going to happen. So it is up to the handler, in this case it's up to me, to decide when it's safe to cross the street. Where my dog comes in with this is he tells me if I'm wrong. My guide dog will tell me if I was incorrect in my assumption that crossing was a safe and good idea right now by stopping, simply not moving forward when I tell him to, or potentially backing up. And as I mentioned in last week's video, I think it was last week's video, I'm getting these all mixed up now. It might have been the one before. As I mentioned in one of my previous videos, when a guide dog backs up, that is an indication that there is danger and that you need to move away. When a guide dog turns around without being told to, that means they're distracted. There's something really interesting, something really fun going on behind you, and they're distracted by that. But when they actually physically back up, just move straight back, which is not a common or comfortable thing for a dog to do, when they do that, you really need to back up with them, because that's an indication that, oh, whoops, there's something there. And in the case of street crossings, most often that something is a car that's coming at you real fast. So when your dog backs up, you back up. So that's how that works. My dog does not know when it's safe to cross the street. I do. I make that decision. He simply tells me if I was wrong when I made that decision. And this is really, you would think then, you'd be like, well, what does it even matter then? Why bother with the dog? Why do you like crossing the street so much better with the dog? And it is specifically because he's there as that sort of safety, that sort of check to make sure that I was correct. Because sometimes I am correct. It is safe to cross the street, but then a car starts to go through the intersection anyway, whether they were texting and didn't see me and just started to go, or got impatient, or whatever the case may be, or maybe they literally weren't there before and all of a sudden came flying through. Having that extra check of that extra pair of eyes that actually work properly as opposed to mine, which do not, to be able to say, oh, whoops, ooh, wow, I had that wrong, okay. And this has happened quite a lot, actually. My dog has actually saved my backside many times. He very rarely feels the need to back up, but there have definitely been times where we've started to go and a truck or a car has been turning right on red and started to go, or it's just been a really particularly annoying intersection where the right turning lane also has the green light, and I didn't realize that truck was going to start turning right. They didn't see me. My dog has stopped and stopped me from continuing and potentially getting very, very hurt or worse. So really, while these dogs are fantastic, and it's wonderful that people think that they're so smart that they know that when and how and that it is safe to cross the street. Unfortunately, they don't. They're wonderfully smart and fantastic animals, but they're not smart in that way. So that's misconception number one. Guide dogs do not actually know when it is safe to cross the street. Misconception number two is a little bit difficult for me to phrase. I've been trying to figure out how to phrase this one, and hopefully this makes sense when I say it. So misconception number two is that guide dogs are able to memorize and know where all of the places are that you would want to find. So I am at home right now, and it is not unusual for me to walk, well, lots of places. Let's use the example of the pharmacy. I can walk to my pharmacy, and I do fairly regularly. So when I get my dog all harnessed up and we're getting ready to go, a misconception that I know I had at first, before I started working with my dog, was that I could say, okay, let's go to the pharmacy, or find the pharmacy, or however you would want to phrase that, and that from my house, my dog would simply be able to lead me to the pharmacy. That doesn't work. That's not how this works. Again, a blind person needs to have very good orientation and mobility skills and very good cane skills before being accepted into a class to work with a guide dog, because the dog doesn't know that. The dog does not know where I am. He does not know where I want to go. I need to direct him. He would be able, let's pretend now for a minute that we lived 2 buildings down from the pharmacy. If that were the case, we would be able to go out my front door. Let's pretend we're going to turn right, and I could say at that point, if the pharmacy were within my dog's field of vision, if it were within sight, and especially if it were relatively close, I could then tell him to go to the pharmacy or find the pharmacy or whatever name I would have attached to that building. I could then tell him to do that because he can see it. We're facing that direction. It's right there. He can see it and he can take me right to it. But if he can't see the place, then it is too far away, and telling him to find it isn't going to work, because that's just not how dogs function. That's not how their brains work. They just don't have that kind of memory and that style of spatial understanding, I guess. It's not how they work. So it's very important that I know, more or less within reason, where I'm going and how to orient myself in an area, so that I can direct my dog, and the two of us working together can have a very positive, fluid experience. That's not to say that his level of familiarity with an area doesn't help me to have a sense of where I'm going. In fact, the other day, I needed to walk home. I had gotten a ride over, but I needed to walk home from a building that I had never been to before. And while I knew in general where I needed to go, it was still just a little bit unfamiliar. Just a part of town that I don't typically have to navigate through, because it's just not within the realm of it's not within my general sphere of travel around my home. But I did need to walk home from there because my ride wasn't able to pick me up, and the public transportation in our area is terrible. But I was still slightly uncomfortable. You know, I kind of knew where I was, but I wasn't 100% sure. I did ask someone who had started walking also. I had asked for directions and just made sure that I was heading in the correct direction. But beyond that, I just wasn't sure. Especially when we started getting to some slightly more, not necessarily difficult to cross intersections, but difficult to figure out if you're still heading in the correct direction intersections. If you live in an old town like Boston or one of those like windy New England type towns, you'll know what I mean. Some of those old roads are very confusing, and streets come into one another at weird angles, and sidewalks and crosswalks don't always match up perfectly, and it's confusing because old New England towns. So one thing that really helped me in this situation, again, I had a general idea of where I was supposed to be going. I was fairly certain I was heading in the correct direction, but there's always that little bit of anxiety that comes with not being 100% sure you know where you are, not being 100% sure you're going in the correct direction. Again, not that I couldn't have figured out my way out of it, but I didn't want to have to backtrack a whole lot either. And there's just that slight bit of anxiety that comes with, at least for me, with being legally blind and just not being 100% sure I'm going the right way. So one thing that was very helpful was as we got closer to downtown, because I had to go through downtown to get to where I was going. As we got closer to downtown, my dog got more and more confident. I could feel through the harness. There's a difference between when my dog is just excited to be walking and so moving very fast, compared to distracted because there's a dog or a cat or something else interesting up ahead, or he sees a target like a curb or a set of steps or something that he just wants to get to real fast because he wants the food. And when he is actually sensing my lack of confidence and is feeling confident himself that he knows where we are. Those are 3 different reasons my dog might be moving fast. And believe it or not, it feels each of those situations feels very different coming through the harness. Of course, it's entirely possible to misread that, but his confident, I know where we are, this is great, don't worry, we are absolutely heading in the correct direction, walk was absolutely in play there. And that in turn fed my confidence. Again, I still knew more or less where we were going. I had a general idea. I certainly could have been wrong. And if I had been wrong, I would have had to stop and possibly ask directions, pull out my phone and check the map again, although the map was part of the problem here. For whatever reason, that day Apple Maps was just not having a good day because it thought I was on a completely different side of town than I actually was. So that actually was not super helpful. It was part of what was adding to my lack of confidence was that my map was absolutely not working correctly. That was fun. But I could sense his level of confidence growing the closer we got to downtown, the more he started to recognize where we were. He picks his feet up a little bit higher. He just kind of gets that little jaunty step to him, to his gait. And so that in turn fed into my confidence and in helping me to know that, oh, that's okay, cool. I know where we are now. And even if I'm still not 100% sure, Caleb obviously recognizes where we are, so that's helpful. While he can share that level of information with me in just, hey, I know where we're going, this is okay, this is familiar territory, I know where we are, it's still up to me to direct him and to say, oh, okay, we need to keep going straight, or, oh, Perfect. We need to turn left at this, at this intersection. Oh, look, we don't need to cross. We just need to turn left and we'll go straight this way. That's my job as the handler, to orient myself and to figure out where I am so that I can then direct him. And the third misconception I'm going to address today, and one that I hear fairly often, is that guide dogs just don't have any fun and they must be so miserable because all they do is work all the time. This is so far from the truth. First of all, guide dogs are chosen because they have chosen to do this job. So these dogs are specifically bred to be guide dogs. There's a huge, complicated process that goes into that. I do not understand the vast majority of it. I would absolutely direct you to Guiding Eyes for the Blind's website if you would like to learn more about that side of things. I'm sure they have plenty of fantastic information about how they do all of that. I am not the person to talk to about that because I really don't know. All I know is these dogs are specifically bred to be guide dogs. However, with that said, less than half of the dogs that are bred by Guiding Eyes for the Blind actually end up becoming guide dogs. And a lot goes into that. And a big part of the decision as to whether or not a dog is going to make a good guide dog and or even make it as a guide dog is if the dog chooses to be a guide dog. There are lots of different things that these dogs can do. Dogs who don't want to be guides might choose to be police dogs. They might choose to be like sniffer dogs for either drugs or explosives or anything like that. They might choose to be autism service dogs. So there are lots of things that these dogs can do. And some dogs choose just to be pets. Some dogs don't want to work at all in any capacity, and that is completely fine. And Guiding Eyes lets them choose that. These dogs choose whether or not they have a career, and if they have a career, they choose what it is. Again, I'm not sure exactly how all of that works. I know the trainers are incredibly familiar with their dogs. They know them very, very well and are generally very good at making these kinds of assessments. I don't know all the ins and outs of what goes into a dog deciding that it's going to be a guide or not. However, there's a lot that goes into it, and these dogs that become guide dogs have absolutely chosen to become guide dogs. So that's the first thing. Because they've been chosen, or because they have chosen to do this job, they want to work. They really enjoy their jobs. If you have a young guide dog who is not, who's not particularly lazy, or just is energetic and ready to go, if you don't give that dog enough work, it's going to end up being a very unhappy dog. And so that's the first thing, is these dogs have chosen what they're doing, and they really want to. They have a lot of drive to do what they're doing. There's a lot of training that's involved in it, but they're generally very excited to do their job. They love what they do. And again, the trainers are always watching them during class time, during any kind of training time. They're always watching to make sure that the dog's body language is showing that the dog is happy and that the dog is enjoying what they're doing. So that's first. They are choosing it. They're happy to be doing this job. This is what they want to be doing. So the next point about this particular misconception is that when we're at home, the dog isn't working because I don't need my dog at home. when we're at home, our dogs are out of harness, which means they're off duty. They are officially off duty. And so they get plenty of time to chill and relax, and they get time to play. And in my case, I live with my brother, who also has a guide dog, and our mom has a dog, and so they get time to play together and interact with one another and hang out and socialize. And my dog is a gigantic snuggle bug, and he gets loads of snuggles from me. He gets lots of attention and is really rather spoiled when not in harness and not working. So, and again, like, downtime is really important. Just like it's really important for humans, it's really important for dogs. And so in order to have a healthy, happy guide dog who will be able to work with me for many, many years, it's really important that I give him that time off and that space to just be a dog and chill out. Just like I need time off and I need space to just be me and do things that I enjoy and that help me relax. And it's important that I'm not working 24/7. It's important that my dog isn't working 24/7 either, for very similar reasons. So those are the top 3 misconceptions that I hear a lot about guide dogs. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful or interesting or informative or all of the above. If you liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and feel free to subscribe and hit the bell if you haven't already so that you're notified whenever I post a new video. I do try to post every Sunday. Again, I don't always make it because life, but I try to post every Sunday. This month is coming to a close. If you would like to donate to Guiding Eyes for the Blind and help out my particular wag-a-thon goal, my goal is $400 and I have not made that yet. If you'd like to help out with that, I would so much appreciate it, and Guiding Eyes would also. I will have my personal wag-a-thon page linked down below. I don't think I've said this in any other video. I completely spaced that maybe this needs to be said, but I don't make any money from this page, from this fundraiser. This does not benefit me at all. All of the money goes directly to Guiding Eyes for the Blind. It is through their website, through their fundraiser platform, that you would be donating. So this is not a fundraiser for me. This is a fundraiser for the organization itself. And anything you could or are willing to give is deeply, deeply appreciated. Again, it is not cheap to breed, raise, train, and teach people how to work with these dogs. But Guiding Eyes does not charge their students, they don't charge their graduates for these dogs. They don't charge us for anything regarding the training of these dogs, or even for training and or transportation for us to learn how to work with these dogs. So it's an incredible organization. Again, I would never have been able to afford a guide dog. I wouldn't have even been able to afford simply the transportation and room and board to and from Guiding Eyes itself in order to get my dog. So the fact that they give these dogs away really for free is just life-changing and amazing, and you could be part of helping that continue. So again, I hope you liked this video. Please let me know in the comments down below if you had any of these misconceptions about guide dogs, and which ones, if you did. If you have any other questions about guide dogs, please also leave that in the comments. I would love to talk with you more. And this is, as I said, the last week of the wag-a-thon officially. And so this is the last week of Guide Dog Month on my channel. Next week will be my October plan with me in my bullet journal. That would have been this week, but again, September is guide dog month, so guide dog theme. But so next week I will be sharing my October 2021 setup in my bullet journal with you all. And I have some other really fun videos planned. I'm taking up yet another new hobby, new crafty hobby, and I'm also thinking of posting some more content surrounding trying to do capoeira when legally blind. So there's a lot in my head that's swirling around. There's a lot that should be coming out in the next few weeks, and hopefully you enjoy. If there's anything in particular you want to know more about, please also feel free to leave that in the comments, or head on over to Instagram and you can find me there as well, either in my DMs or just on my posts. I am not super good at continually posting to Instagram, so just be aware of that. With that said, I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I will see you next week. Bye, everyone.